Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic? Let's do it. What's one unsolved case that still haunts you because it hasn't been solved? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Those yogurt shop murders in Austin, Texas, some time ago. 14 girls were murdered after closing the shop, and the case still hasn't been solved. St. Louis Jane Doe, 8 to 11 years old, was found decapitated in an abandoned house in 1983. She had been AR'd too. Awful. This poor little girl has been unnamed for so long, and her killers, haven't been caught. It's always haunted me. I hope she gets her name back someday and her killers are brought to justice. There's a kid from around the area where I grew up who supposedly went missing for years. Then he shows up one day and says he's been at home with his mom the whole time. And police realized they'd interacted with him over the years, but he gave a fake name. It was all over Houston news for a while, then just kind of fizzled out. Asha Degree is the first that comes to mind. She was a 9-year-old girl who seemingly had a nice and normal life. No bullying or abuse at home, as far as cops could find. Then one night in the middle of a rainstorm, she packs up a backpack, walks out into the night, and is never seen again. A few people claim they saw her walking on the highway, but when they would pull up to her, she would run away from them. Her backpack was found buried in a barn somewhere, I think, but to this day, a body has never been found. What kills me the most is hearing that her brother actually woke up that night and heard her moving around the room, but he assumed she was just going to the bathroom or getting a drink, so he went back to sleep. That must haunt him every day that he didn't check on her. Rebecca Reusch. It's a German case. A girl went to her sister's and sister's husband's house and suddenly was gone. And the husband took a long, suspicious trip to the middle of nowhere early in the morning, but the whole family is defending him. My buddy's case. His place was hit with a Molotov, and he passed away a few days later. The police didn't even try to solve it. Several friends who heard a gang threatening him days prior weren't even interviewed. The killer's out there free. Brian Schaefer. There were security cameras on all entry and exit points of the bar, and not a single one shows him leaving. Yet he disappeared without a trace and hasn't been seen or heard from in 20 years. Truly baffling case. My friend's son was kidnapped by his grandparents and moved somewhere in South Asia where there's no extradition. We have no idea what they're doing to him or how they're raising him. I miss that little boy. He's only a few months older than my eldest. The Sauter children's disappearance. It's an American case. The Sauter family home burned down in 1945, with 5 of their 10 children still inside. No bodies or bones of the children were found, and the kids were never seen again. 23 years after the fire, the parents received an anonymous letter with a photo of one of the missing children as an adult, indicating that the children were still alive. It's still unclear what happened to the children, and who sent the letter to the parents and why. The case of Maura Murray, a 21-year-old college student, emailed her professors about a fake family emergency, packed her car and drove to a rural area in New Hampshire. She crashes her car on a quiet road. A witness speaks to her and calls the cops, and by the time they arrive minutes later, she's just gone. No tracks, no signs of struggle, just vanished. It's been 20 years and still no trace, still no answers, like the earth swallowed her. Greg Weddle of the Army was found alongside Vanessa Gillian. He was labeled a deserter, and that was it. I was in school with him from the very beginning to the end. He ended up joining the Army and I joined the Marine Corps. I knew Greg. He was a lot of things, but he was not a deserter. And even if he was murdered. And I, for one, alongside his family, would like an explanation. A very close friend of mine met with a John one night and was later found pretty brutally AR'd and murdered in a park. The people close to her and I were trying really hard to get her out of sex work, but she just didn't want to listen. I even offered to let her live with me, and every time she had a client lined up, as she called them, I would pay her whatever her fee was just to not go. I could afford it at the time, so I was willing to do it if it meant keeping her safe. But she said she felt like that would be taking advantage of me, and she would just swear up and down she was in no danger and we were all overreacting. She was only 17 years old when she died. I had known her since elementary school, and we bonded because we were both badly abused physically and sexually as children, and we found comfort in each other. I remember when we were in middle school, when either of our abusers showed signs they were going to come into our room later that night, or after one of us had already been hard that night, we would message each other on MSN, and we would both go to a forest roughly halfway between both our houses, and we would sleep under a tree together to keep the other company or make sure they didn't feel alone, to keep warm. It was comforting because we never had to explain what we were feeling in those moments. We could, and sometimes did, but we knew the other inherently knew exactly what we were feeling, and so we could just sit, often cuddled up, like with my arm over her and her head on my shoulder in silence, and it made the world feel less lonely. So of course, with the nature of what she was to me, there wasn't anything I wouldn't have done to save her. But the hard lesson I've had to learn to accept is she ultimately didn't want saving. She was going to make her choices either way, and there was nothing more I could do about it than what I had already tried. I mean, more than once, I even got into fights with men who tried to hurt her, but this time I wasn't able to step in, and she was killed. It hurts thinking about what her last moments were like. She must have known this was it at some point, and that was how her life was going to end. Exactly how she treated her whole life. Wherever you are, Lillian, I'm sorry we couldn't protect you, and we were never able to get justice for you. I'll never forget the impact you had on my life and my character as a human. You were the first person to believe I was capable of more than what I believed in myself, and you were the one to put me on a path to becoming the better version of myself I am today. I truly hope you found peace you so very much deserved in life. St. Louis Jane Doe. Decapitated body of a little black girl found in the basement of an abandoned building. Her head has never been found, so she's never been able to be identified. If I recall correctly, police incompetence also resulted in them losing track of where some key physical evidence was being kept, so they no longer have DNA samples to run through current databases either. I wish she had her name back, but I doubt that will happen. Without even a head to use for a reconstruction and no DNA samples available. My personal theory is either she was some sort of trafficking victim, or her parents or guardians had some sort of involvement in her murder, but no one can say for sure. And it bugs the hell out of me that a little kid died such a horrible death and has never even gotten a grave with her real name on it. Kayla Bally disappeared from a small town in Saskatchewan, Canada. Video evidence and eyewitness accounts leading up to her vanishing appears as though she was planning on running away with someone she was going to meet. She was never heard from again. Her actions that day were strange, and the town is a crossroads for the trucking industry. For some reason, the case just sticks with me. I pass a billboard with her picture every week, and as a father, it just tears at my heart knowing what her family must be going through. Johnny Ghosh. He was a paperboy who disappeared doing his route one morning in Des Moines, Iowa at the age of 12. I was also a paperboy in Iowa, the same age as him. His mother claimed that years later, he visited her in the middle of the night. There's a theory that he was kidnapped by a child sex ring, and that he's still alive to this day. What's at the bottom of the pit on Oak Island? Not technically a case, but it still remains a big unsolved mystery to this day. I still find it weird that over 300 years and millions of dollars spent on expeditions and excavations, they still haven't been able to figure out or see what's at the bottom of the Oak Island pit. You'd think they'd be able to at least get a camera down there by now. So we're traveling deep down into the ocean and exploring parts of the world we've never seen before. And I'm not familiar with the hole in Oak Island, but I mean, we gotta have a camera at this point, or call James Cameron. Like, can't be that hard, right? Come on. Yeah. I don't know about haunting, but I think about it very often. What happened to Paul Giancantieri and David Rose's bodies? They were cave diving at Devil's Hole in Nevada, and despite numerous recovery missions, they've never been found. But the recovery divers reported an extremely strong current near a crack at the bottom of the cave, and when they put the depth line down, it never reached the bottom. They think it's an underground ocean that pretty much sucks you in and drags you away to who knows where. They're pretty certain it at least connects Nevada and Mexico, since an earthquake in Mexico caused the water to slosh around at Devil's Hole. Patty Adkins went missing when I was in middle school during the first week of July with her boyfriend. Boyfriend came back, she didn't. Boyfriend claims they weren't a thing. Everyone knew they were at her job, even though he was married. Not enough evidence to charge the boyfriend. She left behind an 8-year-old daughter at the time. My mom might still be alive. People keep telling me it's impossible, until I looked her up and I think I found a video of her at some event. And now my brain feels like mush. 30 years of crying over you, but you turn up alive. I've been sending flowers to your gravesite for what? And if she is alive, where is my brother? Where is he? I demand answers. Disappearance of Ray Greicher. Happened like a county over from where I grew up, and people talked about it for a long time, so I remember it every once in a while. The only trace they ever found of him beside his car was his laptop in one part of the Susquehanna River, and its destroyed hard drive in another. Guy was district attorney for a long time, and was about to retire from law at the end of the year. Then he vanished, so they didn't think suicide was likely. The disappearance of Carrie Lawson. Her husband and the daughter of the man who's believed to be a kidnapper and I all went to high school and graduated in the same class. They were both popular and active in student government and clubs. They were part of the same friend circle. This happened in a pretty small rural community in Alabama. Even though the daughter was estranged from her dad and had no interaction with him, she was harassed and threatened because of her connection to him. The kidnapping happened a couple of years before our first high school reunion. Out of a large graduating class in a smallish town where everyone knew everyone and had been in school together since elementary, there were less than 30 people in attendance. I didn't go either. I honestly don't know if there even was a 20 or 25-year reunion. It tore the community apart, as far as I know, and remains unsolved. Alexandra Wujruk went for a walk in Saskatoon, Canada, one night in 1962 and never came home. Her dead body was found in a shallow grave just blocks from home 2 weeks later. Wanting it to be solved via genealogical DNA search because no one mentions her next-door neighbor was a guy named Sanford Clark, who's a rabbit hole in itself. Suzanne Martin in Pensacola, Florida. She was found murdered over 25 years ago. She left the club, and it appeared that she had gone with someone to have consensual sex near the water, but things went horribly wrong. I knew her through my friends. She was close with them. She was a nice lady, pretty, sassy, and sweet. She left behind a teenage son. Brandon Swanson, the college kid who got lost in the middle of the night between two small towns and somehow disappeared while on the phone with his dad. He was walking toward the city lights of whatever town he thought he was going toward, and the last thing his dad heard was, "Oh shit," and then nothing. They never found his body, but some landowners in the area refused to let police search their property. I think it was believed he maybe wandered on private property, and someone got rid of him after he died. I hope he's found someday, but it's been 17 years this last month. The Marble Incident. It goes like this. My grandfather was one of 8, and his oldest sister, A, would sneak out through the night. Most, the kids knew, but their parents didn't. That said, no one wanted to tattle on her, or they could all get in trouble. That didn't mean they were jealous and didn't want her to get caught on her own, though. So one day, A came sneaking back inside, quietly went up the stairs like normal, but like a wet bandit, she suddenly tripped over some marbles that had been inexplicably left on the floor, falling down and ultimately waking up the whole house. The marbles belonged were kept with the three youngest girls, F, G, and H, but they hadn't been playing with them and claimed not to be responsible. My grandpa, E, was definitely the sort of person who would set a trap, but he always maintained his innocence. Brothers B, C, and sister D were also contenders, but again, no one fessed up, even with the threat of eventual punishment for everyone. There are a bunch of reasons siblings may or may not have done it, but honestly I'm lucky to remember this much. 70-ish years later, my grandpa was the first of the siblings to pass back in 2014, and B passed a few years ago, and no one has come clean to this day, and I doubt the case will ever be officially closed. Disappearance of Dorothy Arnold and Henryk Siwiak, murdered in New York City on 9/11/2001. Dave Box, so many. I was super huge Unsolved Mysteries fan when I was a kid. Always kind of carried some of those stories with me. The boy in the box got his identity, the murders of the 5 women in Elaine Bryant, and catching Esther Reed as a complete coincidence also blows my mind. In 2006, my friend's sister went out for a walk without her purse or anything after an argument with her boyfriend. She was never heard from again. Police have never found anything at all, because it was my friend's sister, and we really had hardly any crime in the area. It has stuck with me for all these years. Brittany Stoltman. I hope one day her parents find out what happened. Mariah Rydolph, 7 years old, is abducted inside of her home in Sycamore, Illinois in December 1957, and her body was found in the woods hundreds of miles away the following spring. Profiled as the oldest cold case ever solved in 2012 by CNN, only to have the verdict overturned on appeal. The accused roughly fits the name, age, gender, race, hairstyle, teeth, and voice of the description from the only witness, but the witness is an 8-year-old who only saw him for a few minutes in the dark. Accused is also a teenage pedophile who lives nearby. He gets interviewed by the police after they receive an anonymous tip, but is released and is in the wind for the next 55 years. The circumstantial evidence is heavy, but he has an alibi, although it has significant problems with it. His sisters, one of them who he R'd, swear he did it, and that their mom confessed on her deathbed about it, but no physical evidence after 50 years. I've gone down this rabbit hole more times than I can count. I couldn't say for certain one way or another. My heart says he did it, but I could just be influenced by the CNN article. It's an excellent read, and the circumstantial evidence. His current wife and stepdaughter are adamant in his defense. Whether or not John Tessier is Johnny, hope to one day see justice for Maria. Rihanna Barrow, who disappeared from her home in Morphett Vale, South Australia in October 1992. She was home alone during the school holidays, and witnesses confirm she was at a local shop just before 11 a.m. Other witnesses confirmed she had been spotted walking home not far from her house at 12:30. At 4:10 p.m., her mom arrived home and saw the item Rihanna purchased at the shop, a Christmas card for a U.S. pen pal, but Rihanna was gone. The door had also been locked. The leading police theory is that someone she knew lured her out of the house and they took her. This is due to the lack of signs of struggle and the locked door. However, no interviews of local people have ever named a suspect, and no body has ever been found. Police also believe she is somewhere not far from where she lived. My personal opinion is that she left the house again for whatever reason. Could be as simple as wanting a bag of chips from the deli 5 minutes away, and was taken en route. A case in Canada about a native girl that was found in a dumpster after being missing for hours. I may have the details wrong. I haven't read up on the case since it happened. The police wrote it off as her running away and then going into the dumpster on her own because she was allegedly on drugs. All the people within her family knew she wasn't a druggie. They also knew she wouldn't just run away or try to self-terminate by going into the dumpster. They haven't done anything much with the case since they found her body. Adam Campbell, This is a local case. On April 9th, 2011, a car was found on fire in an alley at 3:30 a.m. When the flames were extinguished, the body of Adam Campbell was found inside. He was last seen leaving a local bar on foot about an hour earlier. He did not drive, and the car he was found in did not belong to him. Police have not released a cause of death to this day, and no suspects have been named. This case haunts me because it happened half a block from my house. I was home that night. I even saw the fire trucks and police cars. I worked third shift and kept the same hours even on my days off. I didn't see or hear anything unusual that night. This is a small town, 11,000-ish people in the city limits and 15,000 if you include the surrounding unincorporated areas. This kind of shit doesn't happen here. If you reside in Vallejo, California, you may be familiar with this local issue. If you are from other parts of the Bay Area, you might know about it too, but Pearl Pinson. She was kidnapped in 2016 and the cops ended up fatally shooting her kidnapper. And because he was killed, we may never know whatever happened to Pearl. She could have been locked up in a room and now obviously, sadly, she would have passed. Or who knows? Maybe she's still alive. Maybe she was trafficked and there's hope to find or save her one day. But realistically, we will probably never know. When I see the banners going into and out of Glen Cove, I always hope that one day there will be some sort of info that just pops up about it. Hell, even if it's tragic news, at least her remains will be found so she could be put to rest and the family receive some closure. Tara Calico. She's the reason I submitted my DNA for use with unsolved cases. At the age of 19, she was murdered in Belen, New Mexico, USA. In 1988, my biological dad was working in the area where he could easily drive to Belen. My mom would have just had my sister and was getting ready to divorce my dad. My mom was 17 and my dad was almost 20 when I was born, so mom was 19. I wouldn't think he did it, but growing up he would brag that he could easily kill a woman and get away with it. But I really didn't think he may have killed her until many years later, when I was an adult with my own child newly married. My brother's girlfriend had been SA'd by my dad and broke up with my brother. We are best friends, and she asked me if I ever thought that my dad killed Tara. I was caught off guard and didn't know what to say. I asked her why she thought that, but I don't remember what she said. If he did, it would have been completely random, but that's why I submitted DNA. Her case is still unsolved. Tara Calico. Which of my siblings broke one of my grandmother's long green candles? Like, he must have dropped it, snapped it in half, and put scotch tape around it thinking nobody would notice, I guess. They were decorative, so they were never going to be burned, but my mother always kept them in the same spot for when she wanted the dining room to look nice. And then back in the china cabinet they went, all year round otherwise. Anyway, she always blamed me and said that I was just blaming one of the younger kids, but it's not something I would care to cover up. I would just fess up to it if I broke it. It didn't really matter that much to me. This also happened when I was like 12, and I'm now in my 30s. As I got older, I would always bring it up as a joke, like, you still blame me for that shit, but you know it wasn't me. And I swear to the day she died, she always believed I did it.